Hi, my name is Belgica and I'm an actress. Today I wanted to talk about how to choose an audition monologue for either theater or film or just any audition where you are required to prepare a monologue. I've been doing a lot of commercial acting, and in commercial acting you usually have some kind of sides or just a scenario that you have to recreate. And I recently needed a monologue to audition and I didn't know what to do. I really had to sit down and think about what monologue can I use to audition. So I wrote down a bunch of things and I thought this would be helpful for you. So step number one is look at what you are auditioning for. You don't want to blindly just start reading a bunch of random monologues because you might really fall in love with a dramatic monologue that's not going to be a use at all for you because you're trying to audition for a comedic role. Step number two is if you already have a casting call, you're not just, looking for a monologue to practice for or whatever, please read the casting call. They will usually have some kind of description of what they want you to do. If it's a 60-second monologue, if it's a comedic monologue, dramatic monologue, read it and read specifically what they're looking for as far as the type. Is it your age? Is it your gender? Is it your ethnicity? All of these things. Can you do that accent? Is it appropriate for you to do that accent? So make sure to read the description of the casting call, and if you already read it, read it 2 more times because it for sure has happened to me, especially in self-tape auditions where sometimes the descriptions are really long, that I read it, do my self-tape audition, and then I realize, oh, this audition was for a short film that's going to be going on Instagram and they wanted it vertical and I filmed it horizontal, or they wanted you to talk about yourself at the end a little bit or whatever. Like, please read it. And sometimes it will say we only want female identifying people for this character, or we only want people of Latino descent for this. So pay attention to those things because you do not want to waste your time. I will go into accents at another time, but don't do it unless you are absolutely required or if you are really, really good at it. Step number 3 is when you're starting to actually look at monologues. You're gonna have to read some plays, look at some movies, of course, depending on what you are auditioning for. Don't only read the monologues and then be like, cool, I connect with this monologue, I'm gonna do this monologue. It's going to be so helpful for you if you actually go and read the entire play that monologue is from. Or if you're watching movies, pay attention to the movies, see if there's any monologue within that movie that you love. And the same thing with plays or movies. If it is very, very popular, Oscar-winning, award-winning, it's just an iconic scene or an iconic movie or play, you do not want to do something that has been overdone, because if it's a really popular film or play, it's likely that whoever's auditioning you has seen that and they're only going to compare you to what they have already seen. So you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage unless you're absolutely amazing and other people have told you that you performed that really, really well, gotten feedback from fellow actors or your acting coach or your agent, whatever it is. Be very careful in doing monologues that have been overdone in an audition setting or that are too iconic to live up to. But at the same time, if you really, really connect with it and you really feel comfortable with it, you should definitely still do that monologue. But just be cautious that there are things working against you if you choose an overdone monologue. And that goes for popular monologue books as well. There's some books that just have a bunch of monologues in them. If they come from a play, read the play. If they are in a monologue book, it's likely that a lot of people are using this monologue. So just do a quick Google search, see if that monologue has been done too many times. Backstage has a bunch of articles on monologues that have been done too much. Just a lot of blogs, actor blogs, and actors will be able to tell you, or casting directors will be able to tell you if that monologue has already been overdone and if you really shouldn't do it. And step number 4, when you are doing all of your research, reading all of these different monologues, make sure that you're choosing a monologue where your character is in action, where your character is trying to do something, trying to get something, because those monologues are going to be so much more fun to perform and so much more engaging when you are performing them to the people that are watching than a monologue where you are just telling a story or recalling, something that you did or a memory. Do something that you're in action, like instead of sharing your story, maybe in a dramatic monologue about a traumatic experience that you had. Instead of that, maybe choose a monologue where the character is having a traumatic experience. And of course, not in anything too physical, because you don't want to, especially in a self-tape audition, you don't want to be like getting out of the frame and coming back in and just making it weird. Just do something where the character is trying to get something from somebody else or very passionate about something, but not necessarily storytelling, because I've definitely chosen monologues where I'm telling a story, and although the story might be interesting, it's just not that interesting to watch the character tell the story, something that you could have just read. And the last step, of course, is to try some of these monologues out. Try and memorize these monologues and perform them, or if you don't have a lot of time, maybe prepare 2 different monologues and allow yourself to change your mind, and take a break during rehearsals if you have a long time. If you have like a week or something, definitely take a couple of days in between to kind of step away from it, because I definitely in college just would get tired of the same monologue over and over again, whether it be for preparing it for a class or preparing it for an audition or a competition, whatever it was. After a while, after you say it so much and you perform it so much, it might get boring to you, or you might be like, oh, I chose the wrong monologue, it's too boring, I just don't like it, I don't like performing it. Give yourself some time, try it out different silly ways, really play around with it. Do things with your monologue that aren't within the character, just to give yourself more variety and ideas within the monologue. And even if you don't use any of those, at least you got to think about the monologue in different ways. This was an exercise that we did in college in one of my acting classes, and it was just so much fun. And some of it felt like it's kind of a waste of time, but it was really fun, and I always learned something new about the character or looked at the scene a different way, because we would do it in such silly ways. And if you have any actor friends, if you have an acting coach, of course, always get feedback before you go and audition, or before you send in that self-tape. If you do have a little bit of time, go ahead and send it to some people. Send it to your mom, to your cousin, to your acting friends. If you don't have, of course, somebody that is in the industry that can help you out, just getting some feedback and saying, does this seem natural? Does this feel natural? And sometimes I ask my boyfriend, like, does this line sound like this? And he's like, I don't know about acting. And I'm like, okay, well, just pretend it's real life. If this was real life, does this seem genuine? Or does this make you laugh? Does this make you smile? So just asking feedback from anybody that you can. And I know once you advance in acting, once you're not just a beginner, and you have more resources and more people that you can get feedback from, then of course only get feedback from the professionals, and don't just let your aunt and your sister and your cousin, your mom, whatever, give you feedback. But as a beginner, it is really important to just put yourself out there, get your stage fright out of the way, that I don't want to perform in front of people, even if it's one person. So at the beginning, it's absolutely okay, I think, to get feedback. There's some people who are like, no, don't waste your time, they're gonna misdirect you, but just getting out of your head is really important when you're a beginner. And if you're not a beginner, look for an actor friend that you admire or that you trust, and that you trust that they would give you good feedback. Really allow yourself to change your mind about a monologue. It's okay if once you choose a monologue that you really like, that you get tired of it, because there's so many more, and maybe that first one was just a warm-up, and you can use that later in a different thing where it might be more appropriate. I hope this helped you in trying to find an audition monologue, and at the end of every video I feature another channel. This is today's feature. If you would like to be featured on my next video, make sure you're subscribed, like this video, and leave me a comment.